I am really, really pleased, especially after reading her bio and learning a little bit more about her. I am so pleased that Janine Mix is joining us today on the podcast. Janine, how are you today?
I'm so good. It is sunny and warm in Arizona, and I'm very excited for this conversation.
Well, I can't wait for people to learn a little bit more about your story and some of the insights that you'll be able to offer them from going from where you were to where you are now. I know we're going to get a lot into faith and mindset and all those good things. I'm sure the audience will get a lot from that. But for now, why don't you just give a quick, brief introduction?
Yeah, I'm a Christian entrepreneur, real estate investor. I went from six figures in debt to becoming a multimillionaire by the time I was 33. And I didn't get there by skipping my lattes, which you'll learn a little bit more about in my book. And yeah, I just became a best-selling author. I was just in New York with my book on Times Square, which was super surreal, such a God moment. And yeah, I'm excited to share like how I came from nothing, literally nothing, in fact, negative six figures to becoming a multimillionaire and doing it like with God at the center of everything. Because I think that there's a little bit of misunderstanding in the church of pursuing success and wealth, meaning that you also can't in tandem pursue God. So I'm very, very excited to share a little bit more about that.
That is awesome. That is right up with the theme of this podcast. I always like to mention that yes, we profitable in our name in the profitable Christian business. It's not just profitable for your business; it's profitable for the kingdom. And I know we're going to dive into that. And you can be more profitable for the kingdom if your business is more profitable.
Right.
So. Some really, really good. I have some fun getting to know you questions that I like to start off every podcast with. So, your first one is if you could get a one-way ticket anywhere in the world to celebrate your next money milestone, where are you going and what's the first thing you do when you land?
I love this question, except for I travel all the time. I just hit my 50th country. I hit my 50th country this
Wow.
year, which was Bolivia. I turned 40. So if I have to answer this question, I am trying to figure out a very unique, cool trip for my 40th where I have some
Mm.
family members and friends meet up with me. I kind of want to do like 3 weeks in Europe. I would love to do a train with my mom because we love trains and have a few days with her and then see her off at the airport and pick someone else up. And so I kind of have this like this relay, this tag and relay idea that I want to do for my 40th. But travel and spending money on experiences has always been a priority of mine. And so I love to travel. It's a part of my everyday life, not just my one time a year and not just my when I'm 65 and then I'm retired and then I'm
Mm.
debt free and then, there's no and then, no and then.
Yeah.
It's my now, it's my reality because we get this one precious life and God has created some pretty amazing people, cultures, and places to see. And I just want to see it all.
That is awesome. I'm sure there are many people that are listening that are in the grind, right? Christian entrepreneurs, and they're like they never take a vacation because it's all hustle and grind. So it is inspiring, I'm sure, to hear that you live life by your terms because you
Yeah.
were able to build the way you wanted to,
Yeah.
so that your business works around your lifestyle.
Yeah. My husband and I were just having this deep conversation about this yesterday about how we're so grateful how we have built our businesses to really reflect the life that we want to live. And we've seen and idolized a lot of successful entrepreneurs that we see are like, only now do they do a trip to Colorado to go fly fishing or just started scuba diving. And we're just like, we have been doing that from the beginning, even when we love credit card hacking. So even when we were broke and we started our
Hmm.
business and you're just like, where am I gonna get a flight? We credit card hacked. We put all of our business expenses on. We were able to travel internationally every single year for the last decade for free using credit card points and not paying any interest. So we got really creative. We always made it a priority, but we see so many people hustling and building this business and getting to a point where they're just completely burnt out. And we're building and launching some new things right now. And we're being really mindful of how we build and with what kind of energy. I don't want to be in this starvation energy hustle
Mm,
mode where then you don't get to live. I think
mm-hmm.
having that balance is absolutely possible. I think there's a lot of people are like, you got to give up everything, anything fun, and you just have to focus. You do have to focus, but I think you can enjoy vacation and enjoy your family, and should, because at the end of the day, if you and I were diagnosed with a life-threatening disease and had 10 days to live, probably the last thing we would do is work. So I'm like, I want to make sure that I'm
Yeah,
experiencing
very,
the
very
world
true.
and creating memories and spending time with them and the people that matter to you the most. So
Yeah, that is awesome. Much like you, my family, that's we spend more money on experiences and travel than we do on a lot of things because we really feel like that's what life is about is to travel and experience things. With that in mind, since you've told me that you've visited 55 countries, do you have a favorite place that you visited?
well, it's 50. It was my 50th.
Oh, okay,
I
nice.
I would say Spain has always been on my top of my list. It has been a
Mm,
place that I absolutely love. I love like a good tempranillo and paella, and it just had my
mm,
vibe. It has that slow pace. It's got siesta. They just like close down in the middle of the day and enjoy life, and then come back to work. I think they've figured something out in the quality of life. So I love Spain. We just went to Finland. I would say like Iceland. Like Iceland was one of the most beautiful places that I feel like should go there
ooh.
every to see every season. Um yeah, I loved New Zealand. I mean, you really can't go wrong. I did hit my 50th in Bolivia. I wouldn't necessarily like suggest going to Bolivia. It was fine. I think that depends on the kind of trip that you want to have. Bolivia and a lot of third world countries are very very difficult to get in and out of and travel and navigate, and I you always come back. I love Africa. I've been to Africa the most. I love Kenya. It's probably one of my favorite places in the world. And you have to get
Mm.
used to like when you get back home, like you get to use toilet paper at your leisure. You get to not stress out about water, which is crazy. These are the things that we should be
Mm.
really grateful that we have the ability to get, but you're constantly worried about, am I going to have clean water? Do I need to brush my teeth with the different water? Like it's definitely a different adjustment. So it depends on the kind of vibe you want on your trip. But we climbed Kilimanjaro last year. I can sleep in a tent and
Wow.
go to the bathroom in the wild. That's fine. But I also am getting a little older and enjoying more like resorts too.
Yeah. Um, I had a guest recently on the podcast. One of the things that we reflected on was as Americans, we don't realize it. We've already kind of won the lottery, right? Because we're
Yes.
in the top percentage of the world population. We have a lot to be grateful for just for that. He actually was an immigrant from South Africa,
Mm.
and he just talked about we talked about the difference of when an immigrant comes to this country and their drive is totally different. If we could bottle up a lot of that drive that they have and take it with us as Americans, we would see all kinds of changes in this country.
Yeah, agree.
So I want to allude to your book just a little bit. You wrote the book Buy the Damn Coffee. So what's your personal go-to coffee order?
I love a latte with a little bit of honey. I'm boring. I
Ooh,
don't like it too sweet. That's why I like the honey, but I love espresso. I think decaf shouldn't even exist because what's the point? Coffee doesn't taste that
right.
good. I like espresso more than I like drip for sure, but
Mhm.
mine's a honey latte. That's my go-to for sure. And then I also love a good like seasonal um like I've had like a honeycomb latte, which is like
Mm,
slightly different seasonings in there. That's probably like my go-to in the fall. Although I don't think I'll be having much of that in Arizona. That was more of a Montana thing, the whole pumpkin latte seasons.
mm.
I did have my first October here in Arizona this year, and I was like, you can't do fall. Like this is weird. It's 120 and having a pumpkin latte is not the same. So
Yeah,
I moved.
there's no foliage, there's no leaves.
No, It's weird. I'm like, there's not enough pumpkin flavored things to sell at Trader Joe's to make me feel like we're in autumn.
Right. Yeah. So you reference so Arizona is something new to you, I take
Yeah.
it. So you recently moved there. That's pretty cool. So I'm just gonna go back to the coffee real
Yeah.
quick because we love coffee as a family. Um, we are coffee snobs in a little bit of that. One of the places we went to when we went to Hawaii recently, we're so nerdy that we went to the coffee farms, right?
I love it.
So, is there a place? Is there since you've been to so many countries? Is there a place where you love the coffee more than any other place?
No, I mean, Ethiopia has amazing coffee.
Mm,
Hawaii has great, like the Kona coffee or what is that
mm-hmm.
like where you maybe went? But yeah,
Yep.
no, I like locally roasted usually,
Mm,
fresh roasted. I mean,
mm-hmm.
I ended up purchasing a nice coffee machine for the house, even though I'm like, buy the damn coffee. I did just recently like watch a reel that was like, yes, I can make a coffee at home, but does getting a coffee give me the will to live? When
Mm-hmm.
you're like that midday, you just want to go see your barista. Like, there's nothing greater than walking into your favorite coffee shop, them saying, "Good morning, Janine."
Mm-hmm.
They already know what you want. Like, there's just like nothing greater. I love that experience. But yeah, I'm not as snooty about where the origin of the beans come from necessarily, but I typically like to support local businesses, buy their
Mm-hmm.
local beans versus I used to work for Starbucks.
Mm.
And so I would say that's not the place I get my coffee anymore.
Same here. We tend to if there is a alternative to Starbucks wherever we are, we
Yeah.
usually would go there if it's a local coffee shop just to support the local business. So
Yeah.
that's really cool. One of the staples of the Profitable Christian Business Podcast is the fill in the blank question.
Mhm.
So your fill in the blank question is: prosperity begins when you finally believe blank.
Mm. Prosperity begins when you finally believe you're worthy of wealth and that God doesn't want you to stay broke.
Mm, nice, nice. So that is going to allude, I think, very well into our secret question, which is another staple of the podcast. What is the secret to believing you're worthy of wealth?
Mm. Man, what's the secret? I think it's knowing to understand that you're truly worthy of wealth. You have to really understand what has impacted your mindset around wealth. And I know you have this potentially in some future questions, but I talk about money influencers because you won't believe you're worthy of wealth
Mm-hmm.
because of what you've heard, what you have learned, or what you have experienced around money. Those three money influencers started very young for you, young for me, like, and they shape our beliefs around money. How many of us have gone to church and felt like, oh, well, I'm supposed to sell all my possessions and be a missionary? That's the way to God's heart. That's the way to a prosperous life, is to give up everything. Well, for some people, that's the calling on their life, but everybody has a different calling. Some people are called to missionary, some people are called to the marketplace. And so
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure many of us have grown up with sayings like, money doesn't grow on trees. You have to
Mm-hmm.
work hard for money. Wealthy people are greedy. Don't be greedy. Money is evil. That's probably the number one misinterpreted scripture I've heard constantly about money, is that money is the root of all evil. The actual verse is, for the love of money is the root of all kinds of evil. And so it comes back to
Mm-hmm.
your heart and your posture and greed. And so money is just the tool. Money is not, it's amoral. It doesn't have feelings. It's not good. It's not bad. It's simply a resource that we have, and we can use it just like a knife. I can use a knife to cut up a salad, or I can use it to stab someone. How I use the tool changes. Um, you know, it doesn't change the tool. The knife is a knife. It's
Mm-hmm.
how I use it and what my intention behind using that tool is. So that's how I feel about money as well. Um, so those things that we heard constantly from our parents, and maybe your parents had some different sayings, that they said all the time, or maybe you always heard your mom be like, I got this on sale. I got this on sale. I got this on sale. Like, well, it was 50% off, well, why does she need to justify that so much, right? That's a money
Mhm.
story for her somewhere where she doesn't feel worthy of full price, or she feels
Mhm.
bad for spending money. So therefore she has to justify the purchase. I mean, that's the whole movement around buy the damn coffee. Why I named my book that was it's a movement away from the shame and the guilt of this coffee theory that like
Mhm.
it's the coffee that's keeping you broke. Said literally no successful top 1% person ever in any interview. Literally, there's so many great interview shows you could listen to. Not one of them is like, what got me here? I cut out the $5 latte. Um, so, what you heard, what you learned, what you experienced. Did you go through a divorce? Did you go through a
Mhm.
death? Have you lost a job? Have you come from poverty? Have you come
Mhm.
from hard situations? Those things will shape your behaviors, your beliefs, and your thinking around money. So when you think about like, where did it stem from? Why do I not feel worthy of wealth? You have to identify where it came from. When
Mhm.
you identify where it came from, then you can start rewriting the story. Then you can start asking yourself, well, is this actually true, or is this just something I've grown up believing? Oh my gosh, I've worked with so many people. I've spoken on stages that people are like, I spoke at an event the a couple months ago, and there were two brothers in the same conference. One brother grew up with the rich dad, where they had money, but then
Mhm.
the dad lost the wealth. The second brother grew up with the poor, stingy dad. They had totally different experiences and relationship with money simply based on where they were and their circumstances in the same house. And I was like, this is cool. So, like, we worked through that and some of the resentment or some of the different things that they believed about money based on the experience, the event. So I really think you have to understand that before you can accept that you're worthy. Like, you should just know you're worthy. Like, God's not like, hey, you're worthy of everything I offer except for money.
Mm.
Except for money.
Right.
Like, no, no, no. God transforms all areas of our life, including our money. So that is already innately there for us to tap into, to test our heart and our stewardship. It's the only thing he says test him in. And I think there's something unique about that, because you have to work through a lot of baggage with money. You have to work through a lot of baggage, and at multiple levels.
Mhm.
When you get
Mhm.
money, when you become, financially free, you got to work through those same beliefs through different levels of your finances too. It doesn't just go away. But then you can recognize them and pivot faster and know, like, is this a limited belief I have around money, or is this actually like true?
Can we really quick dive into part of that, and that is the practical steps for someone that has a negative have grew up in a negative mindset around money, that sort of thing.
Mhm.
I have some insights into that for my own life. Is like you start getting around, you put different information in, right,
Mhm.
and you take yourself out of environments. We've heard of the cycle of poverty. That's because
Yeah.
they stay in the environment of that mindset. You can literally, you came from deep debt to something, right? You
Yeah.
can literally come from nothing and become something. It's all about what goes into your mind, right? And what you allow to stay there. So
Yeah.
I would love for you to just expand on that a little bit.
Yeah. Well, what's really hard is when you're broke and you're starving and you could barely pay your bills and you're going into debt just to pay your bills, you cannot see the light at the end of the tunnel. It is very easy to say, just change your mindset. But when you're in it, you are suffering. You feel like the whole world is
Mm-hmm.
against you. You feel this heavy weight. It sucks. Okay. It does not feel good. And it is really, really hard to just be like, you know what? I just need to be positive and money will flow to me. Yes and no. You have to change your mindset from a what I say is the poverty mind into the
Mm-hmm.
prosperity mind, simply being that one will always see the glass half empty, the other will
Mm-hmm.
always see opportunity. So okay, you're not a victim to your life. That's really hard. Again, when you're suffering and you're going through a circumstance where you feel like everything's coming at you, and it always usually does, it's
Mm-hmm.
like it's what is it, like humps and threes. Like, it's usually like you just get hit and hit and hit and hit, and you feel like you can never get out. It's just so, like, stressful and painful. And like, I know those feelings so well. I used to cry on my floor, like, of my cockroach filled apartment that I couldn't shower in or eat in because I had like a family, a whole colony of cockroaches. And because that's all I could afford. So, like, I get it when you're at that part. It's really hard to see the light at the end of the tunnel. So, the first thing that I say is, like, you have to accept that your circumstances are temporary. Everything is temporary. This life is temporary. This day is temporary. This hour that we have together is temporary. All right? So it's not forever. It won't be forever unless you stay in the poverty mind, unless you stay in victimhood, unless you just stay there. So there has to be a shift in your mind, but also there has to be action, right? So, like, you can believe money's going to flow to me and go spend money like a mad person who just doesn't have it and doesn't have a clue and is like, God will provide. And I've seen that too. And it's going to hurt you. It's going to come back to bite you. So, there's this balance of action meeting the movement into the prosperity mind, like believing that you're worthy, believing this is temporary, because everything is temporary. I promise you it won't feel like this forever. I promise you that time heals. I promise you that you can change your circumstances. My story is like a little story of so many other stories that I have heard of people coming from nothing. We were just kind of mentioning, like, people that come from impoverished third world countries that come to our country that all of a sudden are like, I just saw a story of someone who sold WhatsApp to Facebook. He came from nothing. He was an immigrant. Like, he came from absolutely nothing. He was turned down to even work at Facebook, and years later he's selling WhatsApp for like billions of dollars to Facebook. How cool is that? Yep. That is possible for them. You have to believe it's possible for you, right? But then we want to be like, well, I think as Christians, this is another big one. We like to be like, well, I shouldn't want wealth. So, money isn't the thing. It's not my priority. It's not about the money. Well, if you keep saying that, you're going to keep pushing opportunities away too. And I think there's like a false humility in that is still like reiterating to yourself that you're not worthy, that it won't happen for you. And so I think instead of pushing away wealth, even if we think it's like the more holy thing to do, I shouldn't want that, I shouldn't focus on it. I think that we actually do need to focus on it. I think it was very important to Jesus. In fact, 2/3 of his messages were around parables of wealth, money. And so it was obviously important to him. It should be important to us. What can we learn from that? Like, what is he refining in us with our money? What is he testing us in our money? But it's absolutely important to him. So it should be important to you. Jesus paid taxes too. Let's not forget, like, he lived as a human. Jesus paid taxes too. Jesus still needed money to survive, needed clothes, needed food. And he was provided for by people in the marketplace. And there's another like part of this where it's like you're called to be a blessing, like not just to bless yourself in your life, but to bless others. And like, how cool that a lot of marketplace women funded Jesus's mission. If you want to go do something great in the world, it's gonna require provision, financial provision, anything. I mean, sure, you could go live in a mountain off the grid, completely like not leaving a carbon footprint, okay? And like I'm protecting the planet and all these things. I actually think that's a really selfish way to live, because what are you doing for others? And so this tool, this ability to create money and wealth can actually help solve hunger, poverty, healing, like, cures. Okay. So it's such a big tool. So I think that, we have to be a really good steward of this tool. We have to be open and willing to accept that our circumstances are temporary. And then we have to take that action. So what can you do? What can you do right now? Stop avoiding your bank account, for one. Create a financial plan. I don't like to use the word budget, but create a financial plan. Know where your money is going to go. Like, know where you want it to go. Have a little control over it. If it's just going in and out, in and out, in and out, and you have no idea, and you're just like, and you feel like you're just working for money, like it comes and it goes and then it's gone. You're not stewarding it. You're not telling the money where to go. The money's telling you where it's going. And the only way that you can do that is simply by knowing where your money is going. Now, this is where I'm different, and this is where I like wrote the whole book, Buy the Damn Coffee. I do not think you should just focus on cutting out your latte. I do not think that you need to be debt free to be financially free. It doesn't say that in the Bible. I do not believe, and by the way, being debt free is not synonymous with being financially free. I have more debt now than I ever have through real estate, and I'm a multimillionaire. I'm using a tool that the world gives us, business loans, property loans, in order to build that wealth. Again, how you use the tool is everything, but you have to be able to have your plan and not just focus on the $5 latte, not just focus on the expense category of your budget, because that's where everybody wants to focus. If you just cut out date nights, you cut out trips, you roll everything over into your debt, because again, you can't have any debt in your life, and your entire focus should be on paying off the debt. Maybe given a time or a place, like if you're in a really bad situation where this interest is causing, yes, focus on it, get it knocked out. But why do you have to be debt free? Why do you have to pay off your house when you have a 2% mortgage? I don't even know why you'd want to do that right now. Especially if you're not doing the other thing that you need to do to actually steward your money, which is invest. So a lot of people want to focus on that expense category, right? What do you cut out? What can I trim? Trim the fat. That is a temporary solution to solve maybe an immediate hardship. The very next thing after you've looked at your expenses, I don't want you to focus there. I don't want you to be like, well, now I can't live and do anything fun. Cool. That's motivating. I want you to focus on the other side of that category of your budget, which is your income. Your income has the greatest chance of changing your life, not the $5 latte, not cutting out date night. In fact, I actually think that's going to make it more miserable and more unhappy, and you'll resent money more. And then what you'll do is overspend because you're upset. Like, well, I work so hard, I deserve it. So then you buy stuff you can't afford. And this is the vicious cycle that we all have experienced, if we're being honest. So focus on that income category, but not just the income that you can make from your job. Like, there's a book, T. Harv Eker, it was like Secrets of a Millionaire Mind. And he's like, rule number 1, never have a ceiling on your income. I love that. I've lived by that. Never have a ceiling on your income. What does that mean? If you only have your job employee income, you need to figure out how to create more wealth. You need to figure out how to invest some of that income so it's paying you in your future. So I think that's the very, very next thing, right? Like, correct some things over here, temporary. Okay, sure. Focus on the income. The income is going to change your life. And like we've already said, your relationship with money, because a lot of people will make a lot more money and then it's gone. Or a lot of people will put a ceiling on what they can make because they don't think they're worthy. And that's where it's like, it's not really the dollars in your bank account and the dollars in your wallet. It's what's in your mind that is stopping that. So heal your relationship and your money trauma. Okay. Heal it just like you would heal any other trauma in your life. Heal your money trauma. Focus on how can I multiply? How can I create more wealth? There's never been an easier time than right now in our society to make money in so many different ways. So
yes,
you can't it's an excuse if you're like, I don't know like how to make more money. I don't know. No. There's so many ways. I know a friend who's making millions of dollars. I think she said she makes at least $55,000 per YouTube video on air fryer. How to use your air fryer. That's amazing.
Yep.
Like, that's so cool. So there's opportunity out there, but we're not focusing on it. We feel stuck. We feel trapped. We feel stuck at our job. We feel this tie of like, I don't have any time and I don't have any money. They're very intertwined. And that's the scarcity, the poverty mindset that's going to pull you down and be like, you'll never have enough time. You'll never you'll financially free. And then you just feel in this trapped cycle.
Yeah, I want to emphasize a couple things that you said there. Oftentimes, people over-focus on the debt. They don't focus on the income, right? You don't necessarily have a debt problem. You might just have an income problem. And how do you solve the income problem will solve the debt problem.
Yep.
So I want listeners to carry that with them, is like, think of if you have debt right now, yes, there's some things that you can do. Stewardship. And the other thing, I don't want to ramble here, but the other thing that I really hear there is focus on stewardship, right? That says it over and over again in the Bible, like the way you steward what you get, right? You talked about it. Like, you can overspend no matter how much money you have.
Yep.
So I love all those points. Yeah. The other thing I want to bring up is a lot of Christians might take the story of the ruler, the rich young ruler who would not give up all of his possessions to follow Jesus. And I think they take that so much to heart. Like, I have to be dirt poor, otherwise I can't follow Jesus. It was the priority of things that he had, not the wealth itself. He would not put Jesus first. That's what really you need to take from that is he was unwilling to put Jesus above worldly things. You do need to make sure you get that right before you go pursuing wealth. Have your heart right in the right place before you move forward. Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, you know what the greatest thing you can do to combat greediness and selfishness is generosity. And that's where I think
Mm-hmm.
God says, tithe, give, donate, tithes and offerings. It's a test. It's a
Mm-hmm.
test. And even when I was like so broke, living in that cockroach filled apartment, couldn't pay for groceries, I would be like this, like my fists were just tight and closed off. And I'm like, I don't have anything to give. And he's like, I need you to give to me.
Mm-hmm.
What? 10%. You can debate the tithe, whether that's Old
Mm-hmm.
Testament, whatever. You can debate it. I think he wants you to be generous. So
Mm-hmm.
test it. Just test it. Take that 10% and like open your hands and release it and let it go. And then you'll see what he does with that obedience. And then when you're no longer closed fist, tight, white knuckled, look at your posture as open to receiving more. Like, and a lot of people, like the parable of the talents, are like, well, I'm saving it, and I don't have any debt, and I'm just saving. Is that what the parable of the three talents taught us? No, I think the parable of the three talents taught us that the one who hoarded it and saved it and kept it and kept the same amount, not only was each of those each of each of them was given what the master believed, like double believed what they were already capable of stewarding. It already did that. So one hid it under a rug, basically dug a hole, right? Hid it under a rug. The other two multiplied it. And the two that
Mm-hmm.
multiplied it were blessed, not
Mm-hmm.
just like blessed double. And the one who hid it, that saved it, that hoarded it, that controlled it. And look, it's the same amount, was cursed. And I think
Mm-hmm.
that's like a test of stewardship requires multiplication. It's not just a counting of your coins. It's not just a saving of it in your bank account. What is it doing there? In fact, it's
Mm-hmm.
probably just losing to the inflation monster. So it's
Yep.
not stewardship. So figure out, and it's very easy. You could just start a simple stock account if you want to be as simple as possible. We chose real estate. I do have stock accounts too, but like we chose real estate. See if you could multiply that money. Take some risk, invest. I think that like we make failure such a big thing that like you're not allowed to like play with your money and test it and try things out because you're so afraid that you're going to lose. Guess what? You probably will lose some, but you'll probably
Yep.
make more than you ever lose based on odds. And so like
Yeah.
make
I
wise
challenge
decisions.
I challenge anyone that's also listening, if they hopefully they've read some autobiographies of successful entrepreneurs. Every single one of them has a failure story, multiple failure stories. So they took risks and they learned from those failures, and
Yeah.
then they were able to grow their money. So you can't let a fear of failure stop you. Is basically the point that I'm getting at, because
Mhm.
everyone that you ever look up to has failed. They might not write it in a book, but they have failed to get where they are. So
Yep. I always
really,
say
really
that
good.
failure is necessary. Like
Mm-hmm.
you cannot avoid fear. You cannot live a fearless life. It's
No.
impossible. But you can fear less. You
Yep.
can absolutely fear less. You can have fear in the driver's seat of your life, dictating every move you ever make, or it could be in the passenger seat while you're the driver. You and God are the driver, and you say, okay, fear, I see you. You're trying to keep me alive here. You're trying to make sure I'm not making mistakes. You're trying to make sure I'm doing my due diligence on this deal or this investment. Those are all good things that fear is necessary. It's necessary in our
Mm-hmm.
life. But it's not in the driver's seat. It should never be in the driver's seat. It shouldn't be the driver of your life. I love Will Smith said, fear or fail fast, fail often, and fail forward. And I love
Mm-hmm.
that because it's like
Mm-hmm.
normalizing failure and fear. It's all part of the process. Like it's how God refines us.
Yep. One point I want to make is again around the practical steps is no matter where you are, one step forward, right? Kobe Bryant got 1% better every day. He said, right, to get to where he was. So it may not seem like you're making these momentum leaps, and most people do not make momentum leaps. They take one small step forward every time, and those compound over time to get to where they are. So start with going like. Here's the other point I want to make. One of the first things that I did is started to get around people that thought differently about money. Right, took myself out of an environment of people thinking negative and got around people that like you, right,
Yeah.
that have a positive aspect of money, and that in itself, the changing your environment changes your actions. So,
And don't take financial advice from broke people. It just, and you might not realize that they're broke, but you can kind of learn that through someone's behaviors. My sister she had the whole cash and envelope system that she had learned in church, and she was trying to help me with that. And God bless her, she was being a really good big sister, just trying to help me navigate managing my money better. But I didn't know that she was also living on food stamps. So, she was
mhm,
probably more broke than I was. I actually know that I was making more money in my retail job than she was as a teacher.
mhm,
And I'm like,
mhm,
so I'm getting advice from someone who's not where I want to be. And it's okay. Like, I don't necessarily think you should talk about money with your family if they're,
mhm,
like, I think you should make money conversations more normal, especially as you are breaking the financial chains in your family and breaking the generational, chains of financial poverty in your family. I think then you should influence, rising tide raises all ships. So I do think that you should have more candid conversations, bring up money more, talk more about it. But when you're starting off and you're trying to get that advice and guidance, you need to be getting it from people who are where you want to be. Like, that's it. Like, every coach you hire better be making some money,
mhm,
and you better be careful. You better be careful out there. A lot of people are saying they're making a lot of money,
mhm.
so really have discernment with who is guiding you with your
Yeah.
finances, with your business. Are your morals aligned? Are they where you want to be, and can they prove that? Do they have the receipts? I love that some
Yep.
people are really
Yep.
starting to show like their sales online, because there's just so many imitators out there. It's really
Yep.
easy to go rent a private jet and do some reels on it. It's really easy. I see people, there's a lot of Lamborghinis in Scottsdale, and I see people like filming out in front of these Lamborghinis. I'm like,
Mm,
"That's out of your Lamborghini," So it's really easy to be deceived. So you have to have that discernment, but you definitely want to take financial advice from someone who's where you want to be and who has come from that, who's going to condense time for you, because like you said, like, it takes a little step, 1% better, but
mhm,
people think that financial freedom is 50 years from now. And that's why it's really
mhm,
hard to stay on path, and it's really hard to
mhm,
like not fall into instant gratification, because it just feels so far off, but it's not. I actually think financial
mhm.
freedom is so much closer than you think. You just don't even know. You haven't even done the math. Have you done the math to see how much it would be to like replace your current income right now with passive income, and how, like, what would that take? Honestly, it's like, what, $5,000 to $10,000 maybe a month, maybe, and that's like if you have family and
Mhm.
blah blah. Like, it's not that much,
Yep.
and it's not that far away. We just give up. We give up. We think it's too late. We think we're too old. We think, it's for them. It's, again, like, it's the worthiness. You just don't think it's a worthy pursuit. I think it's one of the greatest pursuits. Again, see that you could be a blessing for others, not just your family, your community, your immediate family, but like for people who are in real poverty. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
real poverty.
I want to touch on two things. I love that you said someone that has the receipts, right? But also you also mentioned in there that's morally aligned with you. Some people might have the receipts, but they've gone it in an ill-gotten way, right? You don't want to follow people that are doing illegal things
Yep.
um, that are going to lead you down an immoral path because there's
Yep.
plenty of those out there too. So
You can
I
make a
love
lot of unrighteous wealth.
yes,
Okay.
yes,
So, yeah,
yep,
you can make it righteous wealth or unrighteous wealth. There are definitely opportunities for both. And I definitely, people are out there saying you could manifest it, make it happen. You're your own God. Like, nah, nah, I don't believe in any of that. I didn't read
nope,
anywhere in the
nope,
Bible that I have the power to manifest anything. I'm not God, but I do have the ability to
nope.
steward and honor what he's given me and see what he'll let me do with it next.
Yeah. One other thing I want to bring up is I want to relate this to AI because a lot of negative people think AI is from the devil. It is just like the dawn of the when the internet came out. A lot of people said, "Oh, that's a bad thing. It's going to be used for evil." Why, as Christians, would we let something like a technology, whether it be or wealth, for instance, be all in the hands of the enemy?
Yeah.
Right?
Right.
That would to me is bad stewardship.
I
Right?
think there's no greater transfer of wealth than in the hands of God's people. And I think we're actually in that
Hmm.
transfer right now. So, do you want to be a part of it? Do you want to be entrusted? What was it? Luke 16:10, be faithful with little and he'll test you in what and to see what you can be faithful with much, right?
Yep.
Wow, that was hard to get out. So, just imagine if there were more of God's people who were obedient. Like, look at Truett Cafe. Do you know how much money that family has given away? Look at Hobby Lobby. You want to learn from some of the greatest business Christians? Read about them
Mm-hmm.
and see what they've been able to do in secrecy. Like, they didn't do it like, hey, I do all these amazing things. Just go look at how much the owner of Hobby Lobby has donated. I mean, it's crazy. So I think that there's no greater gift and way to honor God. I mean, there are lots of great ways to honor God. I guess I can't put one greater, but this is one way in our world. And people want to be like, well, it's not about the money and money's not important. Money is a really useful tool here on earth. Do we get to
Mm-hmm.
take any of it with us when we die? No. Can you buy your way into heaven or out of hell? No. This is not prosperity gospel. That's not what this is. But it's pretty useful here on earth, I would say. And so
Yeah.
how can we be a servant with this useful tool? That's it. And how can we be a vessel? How can we be a vehicle that it flows through? It flows through like a current, like water. Like it doesn't stop at us. We're not. I interviewed this former NBA player, Anthony Tolliver, on my new YouTube channel, and he uses the analogy of like, you never want to be a lake. You're not just like piling up
Mm.
everything. You want to be a river. And I love that. And he's been able to do so much with his NBA career and teaching generosity to his kids. And I think that's a really good analogy for, are you a lake or are you a river?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, very, very, very true. I want to touch on your journey just a little bit because you went from, we mentioned being really, really in debt to being a multimillionaire now. Can you cite just a couple? I know, kind of like we talked about, it's like you momentum, right? You start moving forward and you build momentum. But are there a couple moves in there that you can go look back to and say that in particular was one thing that really catapulted me forward?
Yeah. The first move I made was a physical one. I was living in Los Angeles, barely making it in a city that I felt was sucking the life out of me, drying my bank account dry. You know what I mean? Like
Mm.
I could not get my head above water there. So I physically moved. I never thought I'd move out of California ever.
Mm.
I was like, I honestly was like one of those Californians that was like, is there another world? Is California its own country? You know, and
Mm.
Northern and Southern California are very different. I was a SoCal girl. So I really didn't ever imagine my life not there.
Mm.
And at the same time, I was absolutely miserable. I was miserable. I
Mm.
was making $55,000 a year, and this was like a lot of years ago now. I haven't been back, but I was making good income at the time, but I wasn't seeing any of it. It was all going to cost of living, all going to bills. It was insane. There are more affordable places to live. And I decided to sell
Mm-hmm.
everything I owned, pack up my little Toyota Celica, and I moved to Montana. I had never been there. I didn't even know where to point it out on a map. Again, I'm from California. We don't look at maps. And I literally didn't know where I was going. I remember when I first got there, it was March. So it was like winter. I had to go buy
Mm.
snow boots and everything smelled like cow poop because there were a lot of farms.
Mm.
And I was like, where did I move? I just had no idea. I put a quarter in a parking meter, and I got 10 hours. I called every friend I knew in LA. I said, you will not believe where I just moved. I think I'm in heaven. Pigs are flying. I just was like, yeah, it was very different. Okay. Very different environment. Does not even still to this day have like a Macy's. Okay. So the whole state, okay, has one zip code. It's where I needed to be to start over, to hit the reset button on my life. Some people are in that spot right now. You are
Mm-hmm.
never going to get ahead if you stay where you are. Like,
Mm-hmm.
so what? The weather is perfect in California. I hated my life. I hated my life there. I was on the track, I believe, to becoming very, very unhealthy. Very, very unhealthy. I was so stressed out, and I feel like that stress would have turned into cancer, something really, I mean, I cried all the time over my debt. I cried all the time because I would sleep in my car. I would literally sleep in my car because they had street sweep, and I couldn't afford the parking garage across the way. I was already paying a lot in rent, and I couldn't afford more for the parking garage. I would get home at like 2 in the morning, which means everybody's already parked for the night. So I couldn't park my car. I would be blocks and blocks and blocks away. So I would illegally park my car and sleep in it until 7 a.m. when street sweep is coming, and I knew someone would be able to move their car and I'd be able to move it in, get a few more hours of sleep before I had to do it all over again. That is no way of living, and I cannot believe that I accepted that for so long. When I'm like, whoa, I moved to Montana. I moved into a house with 2 girls. I was paying $300 to live in a house for rent. I put 25 cents and got 10 hours in a meter. And I was like, seriously, no, I wasn't making as much income. But again, I figured that out. I became an entrepreneur. I made sure there was no ceiling on my income. It definitely allowed me to catch a break, to breathe, to take a step back from survival mode and be able to come up with a plan. Now, the second thing I did, and the plan that worked, was real estate. Hey, guess what? We moved across country. It was with my boyfriend at the time, who's now my husband. We moved, across the country. We moved to Montana. I guess it's not across the country, but felt like a whole nother world. We moved to Montana. We had no money. I was 6 figures in debt. He had bad credit. Let's start investing in real estate with no job and no money. And we did. And we took a course over a weekend. Someone came in, we read Rich Dad, Poor Dad. We took a course that weekend. We got a coach, put that on a credit card. Some people would be like, that's stupid. One of the best decisions I ever did. And we were able to, not only did putting that on a credit card make us like, we had 6 months of free interest on that card. We were like, we have 6 months to pay this off. We have 6 months to do our first deal. We have, like, it gave us the deadline. It put our back against the wall and gave us no other option. We burned the boats. It's time to do real estate. And we figured it out. Our first investor, we got off of Craigslist. Yes, someone on Craigslist gave me over $60,000. You know why? Because there's also smart people out there that have a lot of money. You think everybody's broke? No. There are people out there that have a lot of money and they understand a good deal. And if you can present the deal to them and that they'll make more money than it's sitting in a bank account, they will do the deal. And we've always been very integritous people. So people have just like invested with us. And we've shown that. We've never lost anybody any money. So we have lost our own money. Let me just state that. We're, not any deal is perfect. But I would say the second thing I did was invest in real estate. If you look at the common denominators in the top 1% of people, is they found wealth through one, two, or both of these ways, and it's business or real estate. The quickest way to change your financial situation is through business and real estate, or both. And most people who end up having a very successful business tuck a lot of money into real estate to help with taxes, and it's a great combination in it to build wealth in our society. And there's just so many incentives that the government has given us to become entrepreneurs and to buy real estate. And so interest rates aren't great now, which is super fun, but it's all part. Everybody's been through cycles. Remember, like, it used to be 18%. Right. So people are like 7%. I'm like, dude, before 2009, it was so much higher. So there's opportunity to start a business, especially in the United States. Like, I just don't think there's a greater place to start a business. And then there's opportunity to start investing in real estate without the experience, without the money. You do have to have a little bit of time. And we would do bandit signs in the middle of the night. Like, we hustled for a few years. It took some hustle. Again, we still traveled. We still had a balance every weekend. We still enjoyed the beautiful, beautiful mountains of Montana. We explored more of Montana than people who have been there their whole life. So we still made that a priority while we were building, but we built hard and we went after it and we never give up. And when I look at the people who were in that class with us, the only difference between some of the people and us was that we didn't give up. Eventually it worked. Eventually, like that first deal we made happen in 6 months. Eventually it started building and it started snowballing in such a significant way. It's like the hockey puck. It's just like when you start a business, it's like here, and then all of a sudden it's like, whoa, all of that is paying off. All that is coming through. So those were the two biggest things. And I think if anybody can get anything, a takeaway would be, do you need to make a move, a literal move to make something happen? It might require that. Okay.
Mhm.
And again, maybe I love California. I mean, I probably would never go back now, but it's always on the top 3 places we could live.
Mhm.
But I don't need to go there now. Like, I don't know. I feel good in Arizona. I feel good. Like, maybe your priority will change once you've moved away, but you don't know. It's all that you've ever known. And I think there's
Mhm.
really something fun to explore in outside of your comfort zone. And so maybe you need a literal move. Maybe you need a job pivot. I
Mhm.
think, again, it's like the fear. What if, what if, what if? Yeah, but what if it works? What if it worked out
Mhm.
well? If it's better? What if that job is better? What if you're happier there? Like, I just didn't think I would love Montana as much as I did, and I loved it. And we were there for 14 years. We just moved. I was like, I'll be here for a few, and God's
Yeah.
like, I got a plan for you, and it was really the springboard to everything else. And then the second part, the takeaway would be, you have to multiply your money, whether it's your job and you match your 401k, whether you take some money from your paycheck to pay your future self through a stock account, or whether you put some money aside into what I call an investment account and you start saving up to buy some rentals. Like, I definitely think that, like, if you read Rich Dad Poor Dad, it's the one book everybody says that they've read that has impacted their mindset around money.
Mhm.
Read my book, Buy the Damn Coffee, if you want some internal healing around your money. If you want to know what God actually says about money, too, my husband wrote a book, too. He's my introvert, so he'll never plug his own book. I'll plug it for him because I'm a good wife, but he wrote Bible Money Secrets. And if you really
Mm.
want to deep dive with other pastoral expertise inside of that book, and really know what the Bible actually says about money, because you're hung up on greedy people won't, can't get through the eye of the needle of the camel, right? Like, all these things. Like, if you're hung up on that, that's a great book. That will really show you the limiting studies and conversations that we've had in church around money, and hopefully set you free so that you can walk into prosperity. God does not promise wealth. Okay, that's not prosperity
Mhm.
gospel. He does not promise wealth, but he gives you every opportunity to prosper.
Yes. Yes. Very, very true. Um, I have more questions, but we're running up against the top of the hour. I really want to know, like, maybe we have you on for another episode just to talk about your marriage and how you two work together towards your wealth. I don't know if you started on the same page, but we'll get into that topic maybe on another episode, or I just bring you back for like a 15-minute clip or something.
I love
Um,
that, Doug. It's actually the next book that my husband and I are probably going to write together, which is Marriage and Money, because that is a whole topic. I have a chapter in it in my book on marriage and money, but I had to take so much out of it. I'm all, this is the next book, because working towards wealth with your partner is a whole nother story, because they come with their own money
mhm,
influencers, money stories, beliefs, and all these things. And I am an advocate for working together with your spouse, because whether one partner is trying to build a
mhm,
legacy but not teaching the knowledge to pass on the legacy, that's to your spouse, to your kids, it will be gone. Everything you ever
mhm,
built will be gone. And if you aren't working together and you have separate bank accounts, and you're Venmoing, I see this, you Venmo your spouse for the mortgage, something is seriously wrong with that too. And so,
yep,
now there are very rare cases of keeping your finances separate, but for the most part, statistically too, marriages last more if your money is together and you work together. Most of
mhm,
the stats on marriage and divorce and money are really not just the money, the physical dollars in the account. It's not being on the same goals with finances at all. And so I have a lot to share, and I would love to come back on and share more about that.
awesome, awesome. Well, we'll do another episode. It'll be probably maybe it'll be just as long. I don't know, but I really want to dive into that topic. So let's plan on that. I
Deal.
do have first of all, well, you mentioned your book. Where can people find out more about the book, and what else can they? Where else can they find out
Yeah.
more about you?
You can go to janinemix.com/PCB for profitable Christian business, PCB. And I've got my 5-step money planner. If you're like, I don't even know where to start with organizing my money, I've got you. It's a 5-step money planner and it's not complicated and it's not full of pie charts. It's very, very simple. I like more to me, more like Excel stuff. It's like stressful. It's very simple. It's all in one easy glance of the year and month. Like it's great. And then you can set your goals in there and your spouse and organize your money. I think it's a great place to start feeling more confident with your money. There's a link on there for my book as well. And then there's a Facebook community that you can join and hang out with me. But if you want to hang out with me on Instagram, Janine Mix. That's definitely where we go. And then we just launched our new YouTube channel. So definitely go subscribe. It's Adventures with Millionaires. I interview millionaires while doing something epic. It's not a boring interview. It's so fun. And we get them out of their comfort zone and in a little bit of fear so that you can see a different side of the people and a different vulnerability of people who have crushed it in their life and have become millionaires and have come from, I think there's something really inspiring about hearing someone's story. And so I'm really excited to share that. And we just launched that a couple weeks ago.
Wow. I'm excited to check. I'm going to be subscribing to that YouTube channel because that sounds amazing. I had someone that I was suggesting, you beat them to the punch of them doing something like that. And here you are, you've done it. And there, boom. Awesome. I'm going to subscribe.
Millionaires.
So I'm going to put those links below. I'm also, if you'll give it to me, or I can go research it, I'll put the link to your husband's book as well to go check that out, because I really think there's going to be a lot of great information in there for anyone that is watching or listening. Last question I ask everybody before they leave, because I don't want to leave anything left on the table of wisdom passed along. Any words of wisdom for anyone that is watching right now?
Start today. I just feel like you're gonna listen to this, you're gonna get inspired. You're gonna listen to some other podcast, you're gonna get inspired. You're gonna read another book, you're gonna get inspired. But if you don't take action and just do something every day, so I do this thing called Money Moves Monday, and it's how I built my financial confidence, because no one is born confident with money. Literally no one. It's not like it's not a birthright. Okay, well, it might be our kingdom birthright. You know what I mean? But we're not born knowing like the financial institution, how a 401k works, like how much I should be saving. Like we're not born that way. So we have to build our confidence. The quickest way that you can do that is dedicate 20 minutes every Monday. Money Moves Monday. 20 minutes every Monday. Read a financial article. Read a specific financial book. Read my book, my husband's book, Rich Dad, Poor Dad. I don't care. Make sure it's focused on money so that you can like be absorbing from successful people, right? In that proximity, like you said, whether it's a podcast about money, 20 minutes every Monday, and you will get more confident with your money. I also spend that 20 minutes. I actually do 2 hours now because I love it. I used to like cry in my budget and avoid it and started with like 15 minutes. Now I'm like 2 hours every Monday. I love it. And I'm in my money and I'm in my money plan, in my 5-step money plan. And I'm making decisions. I'm feeling empowered. All of the things, the stress, the things that, why you avoid your bank account, all that starts to dissipate when you become more confident in knowing where your money is going. And I just think that if you listen to this and you do nothing will change. Nothing will change in your life. Your circumstances will remain the same. You have to do something. So read an article. Go get my planner. Actually spend the week filling that out. And it's not, you don't need the week, but like spend a little bit of time, and don't avoid it, and have the conversations and, take that action. I think it starts there because most people just don't even know where their money is. So they can't even imagine investing right now. How could I get into real estate? I don't even know where my money is, right? So that's an easy fix. Let's do that so we can move on to the next category, right? Your income, and then be able to make some more wiser decisions with your money. I know on your questions you had mentioned something about feeling, what's my guilty pleasure when I purchase something? I don't have a guilty pleasure because I don't feel guilty spending money anymore. I feel excited. What would your life look like if you felt excited to spend money and you felt confident where that money was going? It's a different life. It doesn't mean we don't have financial stressors, okay? Bigger problems with bigger real estate for sure. Bit more expensive problems too. We have those all the time. But I no longer have like guilt and fear and shame over my dollars because I know where they're going. I have a plan for them. Sometimes the plan doesn't work out. It's okay. It's not perfect. And then we pivot, but I'm in it. I'm in it to make real time decisions. I'm not figuring it out after my P&Ls have been done for the year and my taxes are submitted. I'm not figuring out if my business is profitable once a year. I'm doing this every single week. I put it in my calendar, just one last little tidbit, put it in your calendar, and in the description of that event, put the links to blogs you want to read, put the links to the podcast you want to listen to in that time, put the link to the course that you want to go through one of the modules during that 20 minutes, put that right into your calendar and just see how much confidence will change in your life very quickly around money because you're absorbing the information differently.
Shameless plug. If you're a Christian entrepreneur, make sure this podcast is in, in that
That's
list.
Right.
Nice. Well, thank you so much, Janine. This has been delightful. Well, I will see you again. We'll have you back on for the marriage episode because that I don't think can go left unsaid on this podcast because I think our audience really needs it. So thank you again so much. And until next time, entrepreneurs, keep moving forward. All right.